All right, boys and girls, this is our last day to review this. Let's go over our sounds again. Short I, blink, crisp, and our 3 different ways to make the long I sound. I consonant E, slice, pride, glide. Just Y, cry, fly, try. And IGH, high, fight, height, and flight. All right, we need to add, I've added another vocabulary word. Remember, mystery is something puzzling that has to be solved. A custom, a way a group of people do something. Culture, the way people in a country do something. Yesterday we found that Sammy's culture is a little bit different than ours. He's used to having servants that dressed him and undressed him, and he had to learn to dress himself. Well, he's about Dink's age, and Dink's in the second grade or third grade, so all of y'all know how to dress yourselves, so that culture's a little bit different. A prince, a male child whose father will someday be king. And then we have the word kaleidoscope. A kaleidoscope is like an old-fashioned kind of toy. And it has a tube in it, and it has little broken pieces of glass. And you hold it up and look at the light, and you can spin the end of it, and it makes different pictures, and they're really cool. If you've never gotten to play with one, I hope you do someday. The ones I used to play with when I was little, they had like little pieces of crayon wax in them, and you could hold it up to the light and see different pictures. All right, we're going to continue with The Kidnapped King by Ron Roy, Chapter 4. During supper, Dink and Sammy told Dink's mom the real reason why Sammy was in the United States. "Oh, Sammy," Dink's mom said, "I am so sorry. Thank you for telling me." After they all had some ice cream, Dink and his mother helped Sammy unpack. Dink's mother held up this long wooden box decorated with gold. "This is heavy, Sammy. What's inside?" she asked. Sammy opened the lid and took out a shiny kaleidoscope. Its golden sides were encrusted with jewels. Now, a kaleidoscope is a very unusual thing to bring on a trip. Since it's a mystery, I'm always thinking about clues and what might happen if I notice anything unusual. So far, I've noticed that Sammy's allergies are odd and that he has a kaleidoscope, which is also odd. I think that both of these things are going to be important. He said, "The kaleidoscope has been in my family for many years," Sammy explained. "It belonged to my grandfather's grandfather and his grandfather. Now it is my father's." "What a lovely idea," Dink's mother said. "Will the kaleidoscope belong to you someday?" And here they are in Sammy's bedroom, and see, he's holding this kaleidoscope. Pretty cool, huh? "On my 15th birthday, my father will give this to me," Sammy said. He frowned. At least he would have. But now, I don't know what will happen. Dink felt badly for Sammy. He couldn't imagine what he would feel like if his parents got kidnapped. Dink's mother sat on the bed next to Sammy. She took his hand. "Sammy, I'm sure your parents will be found soon," she said. "Didn't you tell us that your father's friends are searching every corner of your country?" Sammy nodded. "But his enemies are clever," he said. "They may have taken my parents far away from Kostra." Remember, clever means smart. Dink's mother gave Sammy a hug. Then she laid his pajamas and slippers on the bed. The PJs were red silk, and the slippers were purple velvet with floppy gold tassels. "Pretty snazzy," Dink said, grinning at Sammy. "I usually just sleep in an old t-shirt and shorts." Just then, the front doorbell rang. Dink's mother left the room. "Watch," Sammy said, kneeling on the floor. He unscrewed the large end of the kaleidoscope and poured out all the pieces of glass. They made a red, yellow, and blue mound on the rug. "It comes apart," Dink said. Then he picked up some of the glass. The thin pieces felt smooth in his fingers. A knock came at the door to Sammy's room. Joan Clinker poked her head in. "Hi, Sammy," she said. Sammy smiled and scooped up the glass. "I'm showing Dink my kaleidoscope," he said. Dink helped Sammy put the kaleidoscope back in its box. "Fine, Sammy," Joan said, looking at her watch. "It's almost 8. How about a short French lesson?" She dropped a yellow book on Sammy's bed. "Will you excuse Sammy for a little while?" she said to Dink. "Can't he stay?" Sammy asked. "Dink can have a lesson with me." Joan Clinker looked at Dink for a moment and then said, "Sure, why not?" "Great," Dink said. He sat next to Sammy on the floor. Joan perched on the bed and opened the yellow book. First, some colors, Joan said. She pointed at Dink's shirt. Blue. But in French we say bleu. Repeat, Sammy. Sammy said bleu. To Dink, it sounded almost the same as blue. Josh pointed at Dink. Now you, please. Blue, said Dink, trying to imitate Sammy. Good, Joan said. She put a hand on Sammy's folded pajamas. Red, she said. Rouge, said Sammy. To Dink, it sounded like rouge, so that's what he said. Joan Clinker held up a yellow book. One, she said. La livre est one. The book is yellow. She pointed at Dink. Can you say jaune? Dink blushed. Joan, he said finally. No, Joan is my name, the tutor said. Dink tried again. Jaune, he said. Sammy laughed. That's okay. It took me a month to learn to say jaune. Now we will do some numbers, Dink said. A half hour later, she closed the yellow book. That's all for tonight, she said. Tomorrow we will continue. She checked the locks on Sammy's windows, his bathroom door, and the door out into the hall. Then she turned and smiled. Bonjour, Sammy. Bonjour, madame, Sammy answered. After Joan left, Dink stood up and yawned. Night, Sammy. I'll wake you up for breakfast. Dink headed into the bathroom and brushed his teeth. He smiled at his reflection in the mirror. Tomorrow, he decided he'd learn to say, my toothbrush is purple, in French. All right, that's the end of chapter 4. So, why would someone try to kidnap a king? Well, a king is a very powerful person, very rich, and so it would make sense that they have some very scary enemies, okay? And who would be trying to take power of the country if they took the king. Sammy's pajamas, man, those sound really fancy and over the top, don't they? And why does Joan come to give Sammy a French lesson? Well, she's his tutor and that's his job. And so he, bless his heart, he's from Kostra and I don't know what language they speak there. But we also already know he's learned English and now he's learning French. So Sammy's obviously a very smart boy who has to spend a lot of time learning. So we'll continue with our book tomorrow. Thanks for listening.